Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Post Infantry Life podcast. Today, we'll be talking about sort of common myths about joining the military and whether or not you should join the military in 2021. If you clicked on this video, I'm sure you're considering joining some branch of the military. Today, we're talking about just that, which is should you join the military today in 2021. So, just for a little bit of background, um, I here's kind of why I joined and left the military. I joined as an 11 Bravo, which is infantry in the United States Army. And I actually recently got out of the Army because they mandated the vaccine and I refused to get it. Why is kind of insignificant, but we'll just put it at that. So I want to talk to you a little bit first about the pros and cons of joining the military, on why you should join, why you shouldn't, things like that. And it all comes down to personal preference, in my opinion. I was told a lot of times before I joined, not to do it, not to follow through with it, but I still chose to do it anyways. First on the list, the main reason is for steady income. With the Army, when you first enlist, you can choose whether you want to get paid bi-weekly or monthly. Now, obviously, if you get paid bi-weekly, your checks are going to be smaller because it's going to split it into two. And then if you get paid monthly, you're going to get all of that in a lump sum at one time, which is either at the first of the month or the end of the month. It's your choice. I chose to be paid bi-weekly just because the Army does deduct money from your actual pay on your pay stubs for if you enroll in like the GI Bill, the Post 9/11, or the Montgomery GI Bill. They deduct money for that, which is $100 a month for 12 months. They deduct like $25 a month for life insurance, which is a whole nother thing. You can choose how much you want your life insurance to be. And choose your beneficiary, things like that. They also deduct like your state and federal taxes as well. So for the state that you enlisted from, while you're in the Army and basic training, that still counts as your home state. So you're still paying taxes there. I did not know that in the beginning, and I was confused as to why there was so much money taken out on my taxes, but that's exactly why. The Army does not tax you, but your state does, and you have to pay those taxes. The second one is travel. So you get a lot of opportunities to travel, whether that's deployment or for operating missions, training missions, whatever it may be. You always have the opportunity to travel. And if you're in the National Guard, or the reserves, you can choose to go on certain deployments. Like your unit will have a deployment coming up. You can choose whether or not you want to go. And a lot of people base that on where exactly they're going. Africa actually is considered a deployment. It's not a combat deployment. However, a lot of people do choose to go there just because they want to go to Africa. They want to see what it's like. So that's another benefit. Also, another one is discounts on flights and hotels through certain websites. You've got websites like govx.com, the military vacation website, things like that. You can get really nice hotels for a very cheap price. I did not take advantage of that. However, I do know a lot of people that did. Traveling to Mexico, going to places like Cancun and stuff, they got a week stay hotel for like $350. And I mean, it was at a resort, all inclusive. So that's a great benefit. And then the last one on my list is you get to meet great people. So through basic training, for me, I met a lot of people. A company has about 200 people in it, and out of those 200 people, you choose who you like and who you don't like kind of early on in the beginning. A lot of the guys that are, they don't really do anything. They're kind of trashy, lazy all the time. They're going to be that same exact way for your entire basic training period. And for me with infantry, mine was at 22 weeks because we did something called OSIT, which is one station unit training. That's what you'll do if you choose infantry and I think military police as well. Not in the same place, but it is a one-station unit training. Sorry, I meant when I say not in the same place, I mean the infantry trains in Fort Benning, Georgia, but military police train in Fort Leonard Wood in Missouri, I believe. So different areas that you'll be training in, but they are both one-station unit training MOSs in the Army. So again, like I said, you're going to meet a lot of great people. That's in basic training, in AIT, even whenever you actually get to the fleet, you're going to meet a lot of great people. it's pretty common that you don't always like your chain of command, but that's just typical pretty much anywhere you go. So then next we have the cons. So maybe what would stop you from wanting to join the military? One of the big things for me was being away from my family. Now, I've never really been close with my family. However, after being away for so long, I actually kind of started to miss them, and I was like thinking about all the things I was taking for granted that entire time that I was there. That was a big thing for me. And also, the military is stressful. That's whatever branch you go into, not just the Army, not just the infantry MOS, but any military branch that you go to is going to be stressful. That's the point of it. They're there to break you down and build you up into what they want you to be, what they expect you to be. Whether that's a soldier, a Marine, in the Navy. I'm not going to say the name because everybody wants to make fun of it. And then the airmen as well in the Air Force. And then you've got the Coast Guard guys. Um, I'm not sure actually what you call those, but the guys in the Coast Guard is what I call them. It's a stressful environment for sure. You're constantly on the clock. That's another one of the cons is you're never off the clock. Um, I mean, when you're in basic training, and even whenever you're in the big army, is what most people call it. Um, you're going to be doing something called staff duty or CQ, which is where you literally sit at a desk for 24 hours straight, and I mean, just monitor the people coming in and out of the door. They're going to have different tasks for you to do, but it's a 24-hour shift. Never fun. I've done it way too many times. It's not a fun time. Um, and then the next one for the cons is you have to comply with specific regulations that sometimes seem over the top, which for me was the mandated vaccine. I didn't want to get the vaccine, and a lot of other people didn't as well. There's a lot of people leaving the military right now because they don't want to get the vaccine. And then immunizations too. The flu shot is a big one. Right as I was getting out, actually, they were making everybody get the flu shot, which I also opted out of because I'm up to date on all my shots. And they tried to get me to get it, but in as most respectful manner as possible, I declined that. Um, so yeah, that's just a little bit of the pros and cons. Now, there's obviously a lot more. I mean, you can Google pros and cons of joining the military, and it's going to be different for everybody. Those were just some of the things that I dealt with the entire time I was there. So now we're going to move into sort of the myths about basic training. And that this is specifically for the Army, but I'm sure that it can apply to the other training environments as well, not just the Army. So the first one I have on my list is myth. I run every day and work out on a regular basis. That means I'm physically fit for basic training. Now, that is 100% not true, because I ran every day before I went to basic training, but the fact of the matter is your current workout is not going to completely cover all of the muscle groups that you're going to be using while you're in training. At basic training for me, I used a lot of muscles I didn't even know existed, and you're going to use them constantly. The Army has adopted various exercises to do for corrective action, which is their new term for smoking, because technically they can't smoke you anymore. But corrective action would be like push-ups, mountain climbers, crunches, things like that. But the Army's adopted various exercises for you to do during that time, and some of those exercises I'd never even seen or heard of until I joined the Army. There's one called the swimmer. That's probably my favorite one, just because it's so funny. You literally take your camelback full of water and dump it on the floor in front of you, and then you just lay in the prone position on your stomach, and you basically pretend like you're an Olympic swimmer in this pool of your own water. And doesn't matter if you're dehydrated because you have no water to drink, unless you want to lick it off the floor, but that's just weird. So that was one of the things that I did, and I mean that activates your core, your back muscles, your arms, your shoulders, just everything. And I mean, no person at the gym is going to decide one day that they're going to do the swimmer as part of their workout routine. I guarantee it. And that's just one example. I mean, there's plenty of other ones out there. Second one, a common myth is that drill sergeants can physically hurt you. Now, this is technically true and technically not true at the same time. I'm not trying to out anybody, but it depends on where you go, because the Army has definitely drawn back from being physical with the trainees. However, the Marine Corps has not. And legally, on paper, they're not allowed to touch you. They're not allowed to even really get in your face and scream at you, um, especially with the COVID regulations. But the physical aspect, I mean, it really just depends on the drill sergeant or the drill instructor, because they can get physical with you at times. I witnessed it firsthand, and my immediate thought was exactly this. I thought drill sergeants weren't allowed to touch me. Technically, they're not, but they take it upon themselves to do it if they're trying to get their point across, and sometimes it's on accident. I mean, if they're just really on a roll screaming at you, sometimes they get a little bit too close and bump into you, or they do it for an exaggeration. But legally, they can't physically harm you. That practice, it was actually abolished years ago, and the movies you see and the books you read that show, certain those acts of violence are inaccurate unless they take place in the past. Um, you got Full Metal Jacket is a very great example. That movie, there's a lot of physical action going on. Those things don't happen anymore, and Major Pain as well. Those things don't happen, but nowadays it's very light. It's lightened up quite a bit, but they do still get physical sometimes. Um, the next one, drill sergeants are trained to hate me, so there is nothing I can do about that. So drill sergeants don't actually hate you, believe it or not, and they don't want you to hate them, though it may seem that way. Um, they're motivators and trainers, and in order for drill sergeants to train you, they need to break you down from civilian to soldier, and that takes skill and discipline. You can't expect someone who needs to give you such a transformation to be nice and accommodating all the time. They're not going to be holding your hand, walking you through the obstacle course, saying, "Come on, buddy, you got this." Um, but they're going to do whatever they can to motivate you to get you through it, because the the good thing about Army basic training, from my firsthand experience, is that it's pretty much fail safe. Like, there is no way to fail basic training unless you do something so bad that you just get kicked out of the military. I've seen people failing quite a bit, but the drill sergeants didn't let that be so much of an issue that they got kicked out of the military or got recycled into another company for it. They just motivated them, gave them a second chance, and then if they still couldn't make it through, maybe they did a different type of exercise or a different challenge just to get them through it, because they're all about the numbers. They want everybody to graduate if they can, because it looks good on the drill sergeants, it looks good on the Army. Now, they are supposed to be producing the best product possible when it comes to training soldiers and breaking them down from civilian to soldier and building them up. However, that doesn't always happen. Sometimes, people slip through the cracks and you get the bad one out of the bunch that makes it through all the way through basic training. But that's just how it goes. I mean, there's no way really to stop that. It's more on the recruiter to determine if that person is going to be fit for the military before they let them enlist. Um, I've seen it with my own eyes, all four of them, people that should have probably never joined the military still make it through. And it's a little bit saddening at times, just because, you're doing all that work to get yourself through, to, strengthen yourself. And then you see little Jimmy over there who's doing half the amount of work as you, yet he's still making it. That was a big thing for me, is I went into the military wanting to come out a better person. And the first thing I learned is that you're only going to get out what you put into it. That's a big thing, is that, if you are expecting something to come out of it, then more often than not, you're going to get that result. But if you just go in there and say, "Hey, I'm just going to be the hardest worker in the room, and I'm going to be the best, I'm going to be the best soldier there ever was." Now, you can think that all you want, but like I said, there's people that do half as much work as you that are still getting the same paycheck as you, still coming to work the same time every day, leaving the same time every day, but they're only doing half as much work. So really, if you're trying to be the best, you have to make that known and show it, because otherwise those same guys are just going to keep slipping through the cracks and making you look like a fool for working so hard when a job is not that hard and even he can do it. Um, so that brings me to my next myth, is I heard that I won't be able to contact my friends or family at basic training. So the truth is, you will. You certainly won't get to spend as much time talking to them as you would like. Normally, you get about 30 minutes every Sunday on your phone. That's once a week to check in with your family. And the phone call is mainly for their benefit, so they know you're okay. Um, I mean, I got to a point in basic training where I didn't even really want my phone anymore because the 30 minutes goes by so quick, especially if you're on the phone. You can't really do anything while you're talking on the phone, and that 30 minutes just flies right on by. Um, Now, certain drill sergeants, though, usually for us on a Sunday, it would only be one drill sergeant on CQ, so one drill sergeant there pretty much all day. And, if he decided to be nice that day, he'd give us extra phone time, maybe an hour, 2 hours. Sometimes we got him for more. Just later on in the cycle, they tend to lighten up a little bit, and you're going to get more time on your phone. Most likely. It's different for every training company, but for me, I know, especially after we got through um, I think it was white phase going into blue phase towards the end of basic training portion of OSIT. We were getting our phones for like 5 hours on a Sunday. Um, we weren't allowed to go in the bay, but we still had them for 5 hours, and that's a lot of time for someone who's been in training, not having their phone. You almost don't even know what to do with all that time. Like you just watch Netflix or YouTube or talk to every person in your family tree, but that's a lot of time. Um, and I enjoyed it. I did enjoy that extra time um, to go more in depth with what was going on back home versus the 30-minute phone call that you get with your mom or your girlfriend, and it's just it's nice. You definitely earn that privilege though. Phones can be taken away. There is a memorandum that says that you are supposed to get your phones at least once a week. It does not say for how long, and it doesn't say what day. Um, but drill sergeants kind of make that choice on when they're going to give it to you, which Sunday just happened to be the best because that's the religious services day, nothing's happening. Um, and that's kind of where they decide if they're going to give you your phone for extra time or not. But like I said, it depends on your training company. And the next one, I heard there was no mail at basic training. So that is a false statement because I got mail quite a bit in basic training. Mail call is one of the best times of the day, really, for any person in training. And there's mail at basic training. In fact, before you leave, encourage your friends and family to write you often. You'll appreciate such a request when you arrive. Um, the first 72 hours of your basic training experience, which in the beginning, if you're joining the Army, you're going to go to a 10-day reception. That's where you get all your shots, all your uniforms, things like that. Once you actually get to your training company, though, you're going to have something called the first 72 hours. That's the beginning of basic training. Um, Minimal sleep. The showers suck. You don't get very good food. As a matter of fact, I think we ate MREs 3 times a day for the first 3 days of basic training because that's kind of like the breakdown period. So you're most likely not going to get your phone that weekend. You're not going to be going to religious services that weekend because it starts on a Friday. So it goes Friday, Saturday, Sunday are the 3 days. You're not going to get your phone. You're not going to get religious services. Obviously, you're not going to have mail yet because mail typically takes 2 to 3 weeks to arrive after it leaves home. So that was probably the worst time. But after that, especially after the first few weeks of basic training, once you get in the white phase, you're going to start receiving mail if people are writing you. Um, and they have something called Sandbox. I'll put the link to the website in the description of the video. Um, Something called Sandbox where your parents can go online and type up a letter. And they can send you newsletters, send you pictures, just regular letters through that website. So that's very good to have so that way they don't have to pay for the postage and things like that. They can just type it up on their computer. They can type it on their phone, on the go, things like that. However, for me, I appreciated the handwritten letters a lot more because it takes a lot more time to do, and it's more from the heart. So you're going to have mail in basic training. Don't worry. Let's see. Next one. Basic training has gotten soft even. Okay, so yeah, basic training has gotten soft. That's a big. Um, I wouldn't even call that a myth. It's more of a misconception because some branches have softened up quite a bit. With the Army, even I thought this in the beginning, is that the military is just way softer than it used to be. And that's not 100% true. In some aspects, they have, like I said, lightened up a little bit, like physically. But this is a myth that is perpetually created by everyone who has served before you and before me. No matter what year you attended boot camp, it was always tougher for the generations before you, and to some extent that is true. However, basic training is not soft or easy. It is just continuously adapted to the type of conflict that our nation is preparing for. Basic training today focuses more on elements such as first aid, water survival skills, marksmanship, tactics, and other related topics. Because eventually, if we do go to war again anytime soon, it's going to be against a common enemy that has common technology as us. So it's almost like we're fighting ourselves. So we need to learn the first aid skills, the water survival skills, the marksmanship is a big thing, especially for infantry, um, and things like that. The training also focuses on the customs, traditions, and history that have made the U.S. Armed Forces respected around the world, which would be, the soldier's creed, the infantryman's creed, the military history, the rank structure. Those things are important, especially getting into the military in the very beginning, because the last thing you want to do is address an officer incorrectly, and the entire company is not going to have a good day after that. And then they're going to come back at you, and they're going to play a little game called Lock in a Sock, and it's not fun. If you don't know what it is, look it up. Um, so there's nothing soft about removing the civilian out of a person and replacing that persona with one that is infused with military elements mentioned above. Again, like I said, they're literally breaking you down from civilian to soldier, and it's a long process. It's even longer for hard-headed people because some of them just don't really ever change. They just sort of adapt the mindset of what it's like to be a soldier. However, they don't really adopt the values, the army values that actually make them that outstanding soldier. And that was another big thing, is that a lot of people in basic training didn't really seem to care too much when it came to the customs and values. They were more just focused on, shooting the big guns and things like that. And yes, I called it guns because machine guns. That's a big thing in the military. Basic training is you don't call your rifle your M4. You don't call that a gun. That's a rifle. You call it a rifle or a weapon. But machine guns, obviously, those are guns. You don't call them machine weapons or machine rifles. They're machine guns. Uh, anyway, the uh, the next thing I wanted to talk about was common questions about basic training. And the first one is like, what are the meals like? So, like I said, in the first 72 hours, you're going to be MREs 3 meals a day for 3 days. And it's not fun. In the beginning, I had never had an MRE before, and the first one I got was actually the pizza, and I thought it was horribly disgusting. I also didn't know how to use an MRE heater, so for the first week of basic training, I ate nothing but cold food. Um, that probably had something to do with my experience quite a bit. But yeah, the first 72 hours is just going to be MREs. And then after that, you're still going to have MREs like we did every day. We had one MRE a day, which was for lunch, but the other 2 meals, breakfast and dinner, were at the DFAC, which is a little cafeteria that they have. They they serve you. They have like civilian workers there or contractors that serve you, and then they have like a little salad bar area, so you can kind of pick the sides that you want. But I mean, they're rushing you through the line, so don't expect to get anything fancy. I mean, it's just grab some fruit, throw it on the plate, grab a milk, throw it on the plate, things like that. It's not your typical sit down buffet, um, which after eating MREs for so long and then going to the DFAC, I thought it was basically heaven on earth until we were doing 3 meals a day at the DFAC, and then it kind of got a little bit more normal, which is what your unit is going to be like. If you're not training, you're going to be eating at the DFAC unless you buy your own food. Um, but 3 meals a day, you're going to have an opportunity to eat at the DFAC, which I would suggest taking advantage of it because they're already taking money out of your paycheck, which is, I think it's $8 per meal per day, I think. I'm not exactly certain on that, but it might be $4 per meal every day. That's money coming out of your paycheck. So and there's no way to opt out of it either. So I would suggest eating at the DFAC because you're going to have plenty of food there, and um, the DFAC on base or the commissary or the cafeteria, whatever you call it, they're going to have a lot of food options for you to kind of accommodate. Like they have vegetarian options, vegan. Um, what's the other one that they had for a long time? I think paleo is what it was. They had actual options for like people on a paleo diet. So that's pretty cool. They accommodate for you in that. But in basic training, the only thing you're going to get is vegetarian options. So don't be expecting anything fancy, like I said. And then the next one is, what are the showers like? That's a big question that I got from a lot of people. The showers in basic training. So for our first 72 hours, it was we would all the people in our bay would line up in a big line with nothing but a towel and our soap, and we had 16 showers. And so basically, the first 16 people would go in, and as soon as they got in, everybody outside would start counting down from 30. So you got 30 seconds on your battle buddy's discretion, however long that 30 seconds was really going to last, to take a shower. And it wasn't hot water; it was just ice cold water that you had to, scrub your whole body, and rinse everything off and dry off in 30 seconds. Um, a lot of nights I went to bed soaking wet because immediately after the shower, the lights go off and you're not supposed to move once the lights go off. Now, obviously, farther along in the cycle, you take showers during your personal time, which is from 2000 to 2100. And I mean, that's an hour long of just personal time to write letters, to take showers, and things like that. And after the first 72 hours, it definitely got a lot better. I probably had a handful of hot showers the entire time I was there because the plumbing is garbage. And you've also got 200 people trying to shower within 1 hour. Um, Not all in the same bay, but that water heater is constantly working, so you don't really always get hot water. Most of the time, it's just lukewarm water, and it's okay. Um, but yeah, after the first 72 hours, the showers get much better. And then the next and final thing that I wanted to talk about was the personal time in basic training. So, like I just said, you have it from 2000 to 21, which is 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock p.m. And during this time, your drill sergeants aren't going to be there to mess with you. Usually, there will be one drill sergeant on duty after dinner chow, which is after 1700, depending on how late your company goes to, dinner. But usually, they'll all leave, and then there will be one left, which he'll be there through all the night. And during that personal time, they're not going to be there to mess with you. They're just as tired as you are. They're ready to go to sleep for the day. So they typically leave you alone unless you give them a reason to come at you. But during that time, like I said, I mean, you can shower, write letters, read a book, read your Bible, talk with your buddies. You're not really supposed to play card games or anything. As a matter of fact, playing cards is considered contraband in basic training. But I will be the first to say that there are ways to make playing cards in basic training. There are ways to have fun in basic training, um, especially during personal time. Take full advantage of the one drill sergeant on CQ. I had the best times during that 1 hour, trust me. Um, as a matter of fact, we used to set up poker in our bay. We would take the trash cans off the walls, set them two right next to each other, and put a whiteboard on top and play 5 card poker. Somebody was able to get playing cards in the bay, and we would play every night, 5 card poker. And it was a good time. It definitely lightened the mood quite a bit and made you enjoy the times that you had in basic training with those guys. Um, and I hear a lot of people say that basic training is the most fun thing I've ever done that I would never do again. 100% true. It is a very fun time, but it just seems to last forever. And I would never want to do it again. I wouldn't mind doing it again, but I would never choose willingly to go through that same thing over again. Um, but that's pretty much it for this video. So if you guys had any other questions or any other things that you were curious about or wanted to know, feel free to leave a comment, and I will do my best to respond to that in the next video. However, that's all I have for you guys today, so I just want to thank you for watching, thank you for tuning in to my channel, and I look forward to seeing you guys in the future. There will be a lot more videos going out soon of sort of different topics. Not everything's going to be about the military, but I just wanted to start that off as my first video to you guys. So again, feel free to like, comment, share with your friends, and I will see you guys in the next one.